I was recently reminded by a podcast I was listening to. It was David Bear's podcast. And he often talks about how when we have a desire or a dream or a goal, we need to let go of figuring out the how. He'll often say that desire plus non resistance equals desired result. I'm Kim Gross, the host of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists, and I'm so glad that you're here with me. And I am going to talk today about the inner controller, my inner controller, and perhaps your inner controller. Recently, I have been going through a difficult time with my chronic health condition. I have an autoimmune disease that I've had for 20 plus years. And for the most part, I manage it really well. For maybe the last year or two, I have been having more flare ups. I also had COVID 3 times. So who knows if COVID is contributing to this increase in chronic health symptoms. The ones that I've been dealing with most recently are within my GI tract, and I have like upper and lower. And then I've been having a lot of low back pain and hip pain and just not feeling my best. One of my desires is to have vitality, to have good health, to have energy and strength, and just to be relieved of these chronic health symptoms. That's the desire. Going back to what David Bear says, desire plus non resistance equals desired result. So if I want that desired result, which is good health, free from chronic health conditions, the idea is to let go of resistance. He also says in this episode, he says it in many of his episodes, but particularly this last one that I was listening to, is that we don't need to figure out the how. When I heard him say that we don't have to figure out the how, it was like ding, ding, ding. The light bulbs went off in my brain. It reminded me of what Melody Beatty teaches all the time and writes about in her books, Codependent No More and Beyond Codependency, that anytime we are trying to figure something out, we are trying to control. So I've been trying to figure out, how do I get rid of this GI stuff? What is going on? I went to doctor after doctor. All of my old tools that I have from the last 20 years, which include going to acupuncture, doing my Joe Dispenza meditations, relaxing, exercising, doing all the things that I know that are good for my body. I'm not saying that I shouldn't do those or you shouldn't do the things that are good for you. But what I'm saying is there was this attachment to this outcome. There was an energy that I have to do these things so I can feel better and fix this health, and I need to be perfect in perfect health. When I started to reflect on the fact that I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of these symptoms, these health conditions, I was aware of my inner controller. My inner controller is the part of me that kicks in whenever I'm in lack, scarcity, or fear. So I took the time and I went underneath. What am I afraid of? Why is my inner controller so active right now? My fear is that if I don't fix or figure out how to get rid of these symptoms, these chronic health conditions, I literally had myself, like, I was catastrophizing. I was futurizing and catastrophizing. Those are two things we can often do when we come from a dysfunctional home or a codependent home. And just It's just a coping mechanism that gets us nowhere. And so many of us do this. We catastrophize and we futurize. So it's like, if I don't fix these chronic conditions, then I had myself having colon cancer, esophagus cancer, that I was going to die, all these horrific things. My mind went down a rabbit hole to worst case scenario, which then triggered a flight or fight response. My nervous system was so dysregulated. I was in resistance, I was in lack, I was in scarcity. And therefore, my inner controller's like, I better figure this out because we can't have this happen. And that's the very energy that will keep me from having my desired result, according to what David Bear was saying. And it is what I believe. I believe that if we want things to change in our life, we want outcomes, we have dreams, we have goals, that we need to be in this state of flow and ease. And the other thing he says, which I love because it's so simple. He talks about being either in a primal state or a powerful state. And the primal state is the one where resistance is coming up, fear, the lack, the scarcity. Powerful is being in a state of openness, of gratitude, of love, of ease and flow, and just living our lives with joy and following the breadcrumbs, follow the yellow brick road of where you're supposed to go next. The universe or God or whoever is your higher power will unfold the steps for you. I had forgotten this. I had lost sight of this for the last few months, and I was in a primal state. I am so grateful to have listened to that podcast to get recentered, reminded that the key is not trying to figure things out, not holding on or grasping. The harder you hold on and grasp, if your hand is on the wheel, that's another saying, take your hands off the wheel and you just relax your body and let things unfold organically and naturally. Now, I know that you're probably thinking that is so freaking hard to do. And if you're thinking that and you're saying that, I hear you because it is. I know this stuff so well. I've known how to do this for a long time. And yet I fell back into the pattern. And that's what happens with patterns. That's when we start to live a pattern and not a life. This is what I talk about and write about in my book, Free to Be, A Pathway to Inner Liberation. I actually write how we are, most of us, living a pattern and not a life. Or if we have figured out how to live our lives, we can slip back into living out a pattern. And that's really what recovery is. Recovery is like two steps forward and then one step back, two steps forward, one step back. Whatever you're recovering from, whether it's an addiction or it's codependency, it's worried, it's recovery from an overeating disorder or the way you eat or lifestyle changes. We are not meant to be perfect. We're not meant to do it perfectly all the time. We're going to take little steps back and we need to just be reminded of what we're supposed to do, or we need to take that step back in order to regain some strength so that we can then take another two steps forward. So I'm not beating myself up for the fact that I took a step back and went back to an old pattern. Every time I take that step back, or you have a slip or a relapse in recovery, you just go back and learn a little bit more. Learn that lesson just a little bit better, a little bit deeper. And therefore, you're picking something up along the way as you move forward. And when you can look at your life from that lens, you can be in a better place to not put so much pressure on yourself that you, quote unquote, if you failed or, oh, there, I like sometimes I would, if I'm honest, I would like, oh, Kim, come on, really? You went there again. That's not the way we want to be with ourselves. That's being hard, being harsh. That's a perfectionistic behavior of all or nothing. Rather, the antidote would be to have compassion. Like, oh, okay, Kim, you just took a little step back. You lost your footing. What can you learn from this? And then let's just move forward. So, really, what I wanted to emphasize today is how our inner controller can show up. When the inner controller shows up, it's because we're in fear. We're in a primal state. Anytime you notice yourself trying to fix, figure out, or control, you're most likely in a primal state, a state of fear or scarcity. Most of us can live there our entire lives or decades, but that's not great for our nervous system, and it's not living a full and free life. Do you feel free when your inner controller is driving the bus? Do you feel free and joy and peace when you're coming from a place of scarcity or living in fear? I know when I'm in fear, I feel like I'm in a prison of my mind. And I want freedom. I want freedom to be my true self, to live with flow and ease, and to have my desired results. If you're feeling like, why am I not getting the results that I want? Why am I just spiraling? Why am I just spinning around, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result? Is the definition of insanity. And Albert Einstein also says that when we try to solve a problem with the same energy that it was created from, it's insanity. So we have to do something different. We have to apply a different energy or be in a different state. And this is also Joe Dispenza's work. So this was just a quick video just to share about my inner controller or your inner controller and how you really don't have to figure out anything. You just need to be in a more powerful state and let go and let the universe take over. I hope this was helpful. If you feel this was helpful for you, first thing to do is you could share it with another person and someone that might benefit from it. If you're listening on audio, I invite you to subscribe or leave a review. And if you're on YouTube, I encourage you to leave a comment, ask a question, share with me what you know about this topic or what's going on for you in your life. I would love to interact with you. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, I invite you to please do that as well. I really appreciate you being here with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. We are on this journey together to have more freedom to be our true selves. I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, Kim Gross here. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. I invite you to hop on over to my website, kimgrosscoaching.com. Right there on the front page, there's a quiz for people pleasers and perfectionists. You can find out if you have tendencies. You can also get into my newsletter where you will be given valuable content every week on different topics I share here in the podcast. And if you really did enjoy this episode, if you found it helpful, if you found it valuable, please go to, if you're on YouTube, go and subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, then I invite you to leave a review. You can even do a star review. It doesn't have to be a written review. If you know of someone who can benefit from this podcast or this particular episode, please share it with them. I'll see you next time.